I was on the phone with somebody in this last week and they asked me, Elisa, what is third wave feminism? I've heard people talk about it, and if what is third wave, then what is second wave and first wave feminism? So we're going to go over that today, plus the Muller report, slave stealers, and so much more here on Deconstructing the Culture. I am your host, Elisa Steele. Alrighty then, before we jump into the history of feminism and the Muller report, I want to give a shout out to Culture of Life. If you're watching this on YouTube, you'll see my awesome white wide neck sweatshirt that says COL, stands for Culture of Life. Anytime you buy anything from Culture of Life and they have male and female attire, they actually give a percentage to pro-life organizations. So for sure, go check them out. This is actually unpaid. I just really love them and I'm wearing their stuff today. So I thought, hey, what the heck? Let me tell you about it. Plus, let's talk about the Mueller report really quickly. Now, you've already probably seen it breaking over the weekend. Basically, the Mueller report showed what we already knew, which is nothing. And I literally is making the left lose its mind. I watched a clip where Rachel Maddow talked about cutting her Tennessee trip short. I think she was on vacation. She was just like, I was fishing a minute ago, and she was very emotional. She looked like she was going to lose it. And the left is devastated because 2 years, this was their only hope for getting rid of Trump. And you guys know me, I'm not even really a big Trump fan. I didn't vote for him. And I was very skeptical of him being president. Now, as people ask me all the time, would I vote for him today? Yeah, if the election was held today, I would probably vote for Donald Trump. But the first time around, I didn't. So I'm not like even a huge Trump fan. And even I have gotten tired of this whole Mueller investigation. It's didn't feel like it had any substance from the beginning. And even now, it's finally coming out that there really isn't any substance to it, which we kind of guessed all along. And the only problem is this should just shut the left up once and for all, and they should be able to be like, oh, okay, well, the report said that it didn't have anything. But of course, there's going to be cries of it was a cover-up, they switched things last minute. There's going to be all kinds of conspiracy theories, and I get it. If that's what you need to hold on to do it, you do you. But the truth is we're 2 years into Trump's presidency. The left kind of needs to forget about it and move on and focus on the future, because right now they've got a bajillion and one presidential candidates coming forward for the Democratic side, and they've got a lot to sort through. I feel like, if anything, this Mueller report, while maybe it stressed out some conservatives and some people who are Trump fans, at the end of the day, it kind of just kept the left in a tailspin. And the left, honestly, and Democrats in general, would be better served if they stopped focusing so hardcore on this nothing burger and actually focused on pulling their base together, because they're fracturing right and left. And I mean, I'm not trying to give advice to the other side, but I would focus my energy somewhere else. So that's that quick breakdown. Now I want to talk to you a little bit about feminism, and that's the meat of what today is going to be about. And the reason why is if we're interested in politics, we've heard a lot about third wave feminism, and we've heard maybe a little bit about second wave or first wave, but we're not really sure what they are. And I'm realizing that more and more as I talk to close friends and family and different acquaintances, that we kind of have this vague idea that feminism is bad because we hear about it in a very negative light from those in the media, at least on the conservative side. And also on even the leftist side, we see the so-called feminists shouting for things that we don't necessarily agree with, like abortion. And then they're also doing obscene things like wearing pussy hats and going to slut parties, or slut pride kind of demonstrations. And we're like, feminism. If that's feminism, I don't think I like that. So I'm here to break down a little bit of feminism today, because I think that it would be good for us to go over and kind of have a good idea as to what it started out as and also where it is today. On top of that, I'm frequently asked, Elisa, do you call yourself a feminist? And I don't have a clear-cut answer. It's always, well, it depends. What strain of feminism are you talking about? Because if it's third wave feminism, oh my goodness, no. I would not be caught dead calling myself a feminist if it were to be translated as third wave feminist. And honestly, I wouldn't claim second wave feminism either. The only brand of feminism that I would claim is first wave feminism, and I'm going to tell you why in here in just a minute. But first, First, before we go into this, I would like to preface this with saying I know and respect a lot of women who do call themselves feminism or feminists, and they are trying to reclaim that language. They're trying to rebrand. They're trying to take back that word and say this is what feminism means. I think they're kind of fighting a losing battle, and this is coming from a place of love. This is, I mean, women I'm good friends with, and then even women I really respect, like Rachel Campus Duffy, Senator Duffy's wife. They're rebranding feminism, and I can admire that. I can respect that, where they're coming from. I don't think at the end of the day that it's gonna work as well as they want it to. And on top of that, I think it's confusing because now people go around saying I'm a feminist, and you're not exactly sure what they're saying. And also, there's a lot of room for error of them thinking that you're a third wave feminist, which is feminism today, which is awful. So I don't go around telling people I'm a feminist. If they ask that question, they really want to know the nitty gritties, I'll break it down for them. But for the most part, I say no, I'm not a feminist. So hopefully that explains. I get that question a lot, so that is why I'm taking a moment to answer that really quickly. So let's start off with first wave feminism. What is first wave feminism? First wave feminism is the traditional women's rights movement of, we want women to be able to have basic human rights. We want them to be able to be treated equally as a man, as of equal value as a human being. We want women to be able to vote, and also be allowed into higher education. There was a lot of schools, especially for higher education, getting your doctorates that did not allow women. And so there was a lot of, let's get real, through most of history, women were not treated equally. It's only really been in the last couple of 100 years that we've approached, and here in America, I should specify, not all over the world, but here in America, and then growing and seeping into the other parts of the world, that feminism, first wave feminism, I should say, has had a positive effect on the world. And now, I mean, look at this. I am a woman. I am speaking about politics. 300 years ago, I would have been kind of a crazy kook. Maybe I am anyways, but that's besides the point. I'm just saying, women were not allowed to have a voice the way they are today here in America. Here in America, women literally have it so darn cushy. And I think we take that for granted. I really think we take that for granted. We don't understand that that basic human rights for women still don't exist in many parts of the world and many cultures. I mean, just take the Islamic culture. Women aren't even allowed to show their faces. Women aren't allowed to talk to any man other than their brother, their husband, and their son. Women are not treated as even valuable human beings. In China, women are aborted, and just because they're a girl. And the boys are given birth to all day long because they have value. But girls, no, they're aborted because they're of lesser value. There's this awesome documentary. It's called something like something Box. It was on Netflix, and it was about girls in India who are killed after birth because they're girls and they're not wanted. And so they created these boxes for people to go and put their unwanted children, mostly little girls, in boxes so that they didn't have to be connected through the adoption series process, so that they could just get rid of their girls but not have to kill them because it was so bad. So trust me, women have it real darn cushy here in America, and I think we definitely take that for granted, especially as American women, because I can tell you firsthand that I know women who were raised partially in Mexico or just live in Mexico, and they're here in the States, and they're still not treated as equals. I have loved ones who are not treated as even, they're not even treated like they have the same value as men. It's, woman, go get me a sandwich. That's a real thing. It's there's women's work, and the men refuse to change their children's diapers. Refuse, because that's women's work. They refuse to do the dishes because that's women's work. Just basic things like helping with your children and helping with the cleaning and the housework, when your wife needs a break. Here in America, we take that for granted. That's what men do because men are loving, equal partners. And if you have a stay-at-home mom, that's great, but sometimes she's going to need a break and going to need help. And, dad's going to be around, dad should change a diaper. Well, there are still many people in today's world. Women are not allowed to get jobs in many cultures, and some of people who are really close to me, without getting into detail, there are some women whom I are close to who were not even allowed to get a job. Even when they're 19, 20 years old, their fathers or husbands refuse to let them get a job, because no, a woman's job is to be at home and to do woman's work. That's wrong. And that's what first wave feminism fought to get rid of. First wave and a little bit of second wave. I don't really agree with second wave so much, but definitely first wave. It was the right for women to be able to vote, the right for women to get an education, the right for women to be able to work in the workplace without discrimination, because that was a real thing and still is a real thing in some parts of the world. I'm not denying that that is the case. And in fact, my own mother, God bless her, she married to a polygamist in Mexico. She experienced a lot of that. She was beat by my biological father, and she went to the Mexican police, and they just looked at her and said, "You belong to your husband. There's nothing we can do." And then they blew cigarette smoke in her face, saying, "Oh, there's nothing we can do. You belong to your husband." And also on top of that, when she wanted to leave my abusive biological father, she felt trapped, like she couldn't, because children belong to the men. That's how the men control their wives, is saying, "Oh, sure, you can leave me anytime, but you can't take our kids." And what woman wants to leave her children? The strength of a mother's love is so strong. Why would you ever want to leave her children? So please do not think that feminism is not needed. First wave feminism is needed in much of the world and in many of the cultures. And that is a feminism I can get behind, is equal value for women, equal opportunity in the public sphere for women, the opportunity for women to work or get a higher education, or simply not be spousal raped. Spousal rape is a real thing too. And in many governments, if a woman is raped by her spouse, which is a real thing, and I know women who are close to me who were raped by their spouses, that is a real thing. Just because you're married, it does not give you a right to someone else's body. It is still two consenting individuals. And yes, you are one, but you are one in a consenting way, not in a one owns the other person. That's not the way that works. And so spousal abuse and spousal rape is a real thing and is not taken seriously in many cultures and many parts of the world. And that is also something that first wave feminism started to bring awareness to and fight against. So this is from Wikipedia, definition of first wave feminist, so you can get an idea. Is also, I should mention, first wave feminism was supported by people like Susan B. Anthony. So we had some strong, good fighters. So here we go. The end of the first wave is often linked with the passage of the 19th Amendment of the United States in 1920, granting women the right to vote. This was the major victory of the movement, which also included reforms in higher education, in the workplace and professions, and in healthcare. Women started serving on school boards and local bodies, and numbers kept increasing. This period also saw more women gaining access to higher education. In 1910, women were attending many leading medical schools, and in 1915, the American Medical Association began to admit women members. Also, there was a Matrimonial Cause Act in 1923 that gave women the right to grounds for divorce, the same as men. So, for instance, a woman could divorce her husband for him cheating on her, that kind of thing. The first wave feminists, in contrast to the second wave, focused very little on the subjects of abortion, birth control, and overall reproductive rights for women. So the first wave of feminism really wasn't about abortion. That's why I can get behind the first wave move. Though never married, Susan B. Anthony, published her views about marriage, holding that a woman should be allowed to refuse sex to her husband. The American woman had no legal recourse at that time against rape by her husband. And that's absolutely the case. A husband shouldn't have to have sex if obviously there's a different dynamic because men are stronger than women, but let's just say for some sadistic reason a woman wanted to hold a gun to her husband's head and say, "You're gonna have sex with me," that's wrong. That's rape, just as the same way as it is the other way around. It doesn't matter if you're married. And so this is a big deal, and all this is good, and I support, for the most part, first wave feminism. Then we come into second wave feminism. Second wave feminism, here we are, this is again from Wikipedia, is a period of feminist activity thought to begin in the United States in the early 1960s and lasted roughly 2 decades. It quickly spread across the Western world with an aim to increase equality for women by gaining more than just enfranchisement. Whereas first wave feminism focused mainly on suffrage and overturning legal obstacles to gender equality, i.e., voting rights and property rights, second wave feminism broadened the debate to include a wider range of issues such as sexuality, family, the workplace, reproductive rights, and official legal inequalities. Second wave feminism also drew attention to the issues of domestic violence and marital rape and endangered rape crisis centers and women's shelters, unions, restaurants, blah, blah, blah. So essentially what this breaks down to is it lasted from about the 1960s to the 1980s. And this is when I believe it started to go off the end a little. It started to get into the intra-feminism disputes of feminist sex wars over issues such as sexuality, pornography, and that kind of triggered us into the third wave feminism in the early 1990s. Now, this is where I start to branch away from feminism, because while things like domestic violence and marital rape are important issues to me as a woman, this is when they start getting into things like birth control and my body, my choice, and killing women, which doesn't make any sense, killing women as in through abortion. And this is where they start to get into the iffy and evil parts of feminism. Then that launches us to third wave feminism. And that is, for the most part, when people think feminism, this is what they think of as third wave feminism. Third wave feminism, the term is credited to Rebecca Walker, who responded to Justice Thomas's appointment to the Supreme Court with an article called Becoming the Third Wave in 1992. She wrote, "So I write this as a plea to all women, especially women of my generation. Let Thomas's confirmation serve to remind you, as it did me, that the fight is far from over. Let the dismissal of women's experience move you to anger. Turn the outrage into political power. Do not vote for them unless they work for us." This is talking about men in general. "Do not vote for them unless they work for us. Do not have sex with them. Do not break bread with them. Do not nurture them if they don't prioritize our freedom to control our bodies and our lives. I am not a post-feminist feminist. I am a third wave." And this is the main claim that people think coined third wave feminism, and this is in 1992. So Walker, she basically sought to establish third wave feminism as not just a reaction, but also a movement, because the feminist cause had more work ahead, as she felt like, which I disagree with. But she continued, and the term intersectionality developed, which is a word that's used a lot today. And it was used to describe the idea that women have layers of oppression caused, for example, by gender, race, class, and so essentially intersectionality is how many different handicaps you can claim. So me, as an intersectional person, I can say that my gender holds me back because I'm a woman. I'm not saying I believe any of this. I think this is total trash. But this is the way a feminist today would explain it is I have intersectional points for being a woman. I have intersectional points for being a Hispanic. I have intersectional points for I'm told that by people in my family who've done genealogy that I have Cherokee, so I could claim that as intersectional points. And yeah, that's about it. I don't get any because I'm a straight woman, so I don't get points for that. In fact, that might give me negative points. And I'm also hardcore conservative, so that basically puts me in the negatives, probably for what feminists would say today. So, for instance, continuing on with this. As feminists came online in the 1990s and early 2000s, they reached a global audience with blogs, e-zines, and they broadened their goals, focusing on abolishing gender stereotypes and expanding feminism to include women with diverse, radical, and cultural identities. So let's pause right there. Abolishing gender stereotypes. Now, what they would call gender stereotypes, I would call God-designed differences in the sexes. Many feminists today, I would say the majority groupthink of feminism today is that men and women are exactly the same. I don't think that's the case. We are not exactly the same. I cannot carry a 200-pound man, whereas many other, let's say for women who want to be part of the firefighting force, I don't necessarily agree with that unless they can reach the exact same physical goals and demands that the men would have to reach. But instead of saying, okay, women are the same, they just need to reach the same goals, feminists have started to push for and lobby for lowering the standards, which I don't think is healthy at all, and definitely does not help our American firefighting station. And that just is one of many examples. So continuing, also the third wave saw the emergence of new feminist currents and theories such as intersectionality, sex positivity, which means being a hoe and having sex no matter what and not slut shaming anybody. Let's see, vegetarian ecofeminism, transfeminism, and postmodern feminism. So today's feminism are the science deniers of today's world. They deny that gender exists. You can be gender fluid. You can be whatever gender you feel like being when you wake up in the morning. And they also are huge pushers of homosexuality, huge pushers of basically anti-science when it comes to the pro-life movement. They are pro-choice, which I don't think is they're pro-murder. Pro-choice is keeping the baby, adopting the baby out, or finding an alternative family for your baby, essentially. Those are the choices, giving your baby a life. So I don't believe that the pro-abortion movement is pro-choice. I don't believe it is at all. So I'm going to call them pro-murders. And if you listen to my other podcast, you know that. But the third wave feminism of today is just cancer. I don't even know. It was someone I'm losing their name right now, but they say feminism is cancer. I think it might have been Milo Yiannopoulos. I don't know if he started that or not, but feminism truly is cancer. That's a very accurate description. Today's feminism is cancer. So there you go. That is a little bit of an explanation of what first, second, and third wave feminism is. I want us as conservatives, especially as conservative men and women and people who are going to have children and raise this next generation, I want us to be able to understand the history behind this, where it came from, where it is today, and hopefully try and prepare for where it might be tomorrow. So I hope that helped you out a little bit. Real quick, before we run out of time, I'm going to go over this week's book. This week's book is Slave Stealers by Tim Ballard. Now, I told you guys I briefly mentioned this a couple of weeks ago when I was telling you about Unplanned by Abby Johnson. I told you that there were 3 books that have made me cry while reading them, and I'm not a huge crier during books, but the 3 books that made me cry, I told you, was Unplanned by Abby Johnson, Where the Red Fern Grows, phenomenal, I'm sorry, but the end of it kills me, and this one, Slave Stealers by Tim Ballard. A little bit about that book is: follow 2 abolitionists who fought one of the most shockingly persistent evils of the world, human trafficking and sexual exploitation of slaves. Told in alternating chapters from perspectives spanning more than a century apart, read the riveting 19th century firsthand account of Harriet Jacobs and the modern-day eyewitness account of Timothy Ballard. As a former special agent for the Department of Homeland Security who has seen the horrors and carnage of war, Timothy Ballard founded a modern-day underground railroad, which has rescued hundreds of children from being fully enslaved, abused, and trafficked in third world countries. His story includes the rescue and eventual adoption of 2 young siblings, Maya and Marky, who were born in Haiti. Now, I loved this book because I think many of us are becoming aware of it today, but this is a recent thing that we've actually become aware of, and it's tragic it's taken us this long. Slavery is bigger today than it's ever been in the history of slavery, and I'm talking about sex slavery specifically. There are over 2 million children being sexually trafficked in our world, and many of them are in the United States. And if you follow me on Instagram, I talk about this, and I talked about this specifically around the Super Bowl, if you remember my Super Bowl post. And I think it's incredibly crucial that we talk about this together today, because this is a huge problem and we cannot get it to go away just by not thinking about it. We need to talk about this. And this book not only broke my heart reading about how enslaved children are today, but also inspired me in how to get involved. And I definitely recommend you read this. Not only that, but I met Timothy Ballard when I was like 16 years old, and I've literally been following his adoption story of these 2 little kids, Maya and Marky, since I was 16 years old. And it's been the 1-year anniversary of him adopting his 2 little kids from Haiti, and I just saw the video on Instagram on his Instagram TV of him bringing them home to his family. He now has 9 children, and that made me cry too. So I really strongly recommend you check this out. This is an issue that we all need to not only just know about, but educate ourselves on, and then find out how we can get involved, because even slavery right before the Civil War, slavery didn't go away just because some of us didn't participate in it. It wasn't like, oh, well, slavery can happen, but I'm just not going to participate in it. No, we all have to fight this evil together. So it's very, very critical that we educate ourselves on this. So check out OUR, Operation Underground Railroad, online, and check out Slave Stealers by Tim Ballard. All right, really quickly, we're going to go over, running short on time, but we're going to talk about American Housewife. And this is an ABC show. I seem to pick on ABC a lot. Honestly, I'm not trying to pick on them. They just have really trashy, awful TV. So here's a little trailer of American Housewife, and then we will talk a little bit about it. Actually, you know what? I'm going to skip the trailer because we're running short on time. Basically, American Housewife is about this lady who she says, I'm fat and I'm going to move into this kind of cushy neighborhood. And because they have a really amazing private school, she wants to send her kids to it. And then it's supposed to be just the everyday American housewife and blah, blah, blah. Anyways, long story short, here's a little clip of something that I thought was, the whole show is really trashy, honestly, but here's a little clip that I particularly didn't like, and I'll tell you why in a second. So here's a little clip. Essentially, the background is mom and dad went on an overnight date, and their teenage son, decided to take the car to a party, but he crashed the car. By the way, he's like 15, so he's not even supposed to be driving. He crashed the car because he didn't put it in park. He put it in neutral when they rolled back. And then the sister decides to cover for the brother and tell her parents, because she's the naughty child, tell her parents that it was her fault. So here we go. This is that scene.
Front and center.
Your mother and I slept on it. And as punishment for wrecking my car, you're going to get a job to pay us back for the repairs.
When am I supposed to work? I have rehearsal for the school musical like every night. Well, you're going to have to quit the musical then.
We gave you an opportunity to be responsible, and you blew it. Every weekend, you're here in your room.
But... Okay.
It was me. I was the one who crashed the car.
What?
And me. Don't hate me, Mom and Dad. Taylor was just covering for me.
Is that true?
You did that for him.
Yeah, of course. He's my brother.
I'm proud of you. Are you crazy? What were you thinking? You're not even allowed to drive.
Cooper and I snuck out to meet some girls at a party. We forgot to put the car in park. It rolled down a hill, and it crashed into a tree.
I don't even know what to say. That's never happened before.
I'm sorry. It's just you guys always call me the sensible kid.
So you're mad because we think highly of you?
I wanted to do something reckless, and it turned out a little more reckless than I wanted.
Alrighty there. Did you catch that? After they tell what the story of all this, they play this feel-good music, and then the father goes, I'm so proud of you. No, you're not freaking proud of your son. He lied to you. Both of them lied to you. That's not something you're proud of for your child. Newsflash, loyalty doesn't mean you just lie to your parents to save your sibling's butt. That's That's not loyalty. It's loyalty to your family, which means, I don't know, you protect them from something really horrible happening, but it doesn't mean you lie to your parents. That's not loyalty. That's the opposite. That's betrayal. That's terrible. And quite frankly, why the heck would why would you be putting on TV the parents should be proud of their children for lying to them to their face to protect their brother? That's dumb. It's not even like something that should, oh gosh, it just bothers me so bad that this is the stereotype. And in this movie's, and the show is full of it. It's full of this crap where they're praising their children for doing really deceitful, dishonest, bad things. And it's supposed to be this feel-good moment and this feel-good music where the parent's like, I'm so proud of you. You lied to me. You betrayed my trust as a parent. You stole my car. You crashed it, and then you lied to me. I'm so proud of you because you lied for your sister. No. You're not teaching your child anything good. Truly, you're not. And then they're going to go ahead and repeat that if this was a real thing. They'd repeat that because you told them, I'm so proud of you. No, I'm sorry, but this is gross. And there's nothing feel good about that moment. And I think it's gross that on American TV, this is what we're posting. Also, what are the children? I'm sorry, but they're going to be children watching this show. What are the children supposed to be thinking who are watching this of, that's how you show loyalty to your families, by lying to your parents. I'm sorry, but no, I don't stand for that. Okay, really quickly, I don't really have time for all the questions that I was going to take. I will just answer a couple of quick ones. Mrs. Growth asked, Are you thinking about getting pregnant soon? I'm sure you both would have cute children. Yes, we would. Children are definitely in our future because I believe in having children, and lots of them because they are so darn cute. No, I do want to have children. We will see. We're not planning currently on having them right away, but hey, God could have a sense of humor and I could be pregnant tomorrow. Who the heck knows? So that's interesting, that question. Will asks, what is your ethnicity? My ethnicity, okay, well, I kind of touched on that earlier. I'm told that I have some Cherokee. I cannot fully, I have not taken a DNA test, so I don't know for sure. But I'm told by people who have studied my family history that I have some Cherokee, so that would be interesting to know if that's for sure. I do know pretty for sure that I have some Tadumadan Indian. Tadumadan is essentially like, so essentially my ancestors are like either the Mayans or the Aztecs in Mexico, and somehow or another that developed into the Tadumadan Indian. So my grandmother, my biological father's mother, was a part Tadumadan Indian, part Spanish, and part something else I can't remember. So my mom remembers her as being a short, fat Tadumadan woman. So I know I'm part that, and then I also have some English in there somewhere, obviously, because I'm white as a ghost. And I also am part Hispanic, and yeah, I need to take a DNA test. That would be really interesting, but that's my ethnicity as far as I know. So hope that answered your question well. And then to wrap up, we're going to wrap up with the good in our world. Now, I want to remind you guys that we live in the greatest country and the greatest time in the entire world. And we literally have never had a life expectancy longer than this. We've never had, I mean, seriously, look at it. Our freaking poverty rate here in America still includes having a microwave, a dishwasher, a car for the most part, and usually a smartphone. So we're doing pretty good with our poverty rate looks like that. So after I've reminded you of that, the good story for the end of this podcast this week is there was essentially this adorable Down syndrome boy, and he lost his little teddy bear, and he had been told by his parents, if there's ever an emergency, you call 911. So instead of going and asking his parents if they could help him find his little teddy bear, he calls 911, and he says, teddy bear fell down again. Don't worry, I'll rescue you. Goodbye. See you again, to the 911 operative. And then he hung up. And then it's customary, if you get a hang up 911, you have to send an officer out. So the officer came out, and it's so cute. There's a video, and this little boy just runs to this officer, and he gives him a hug, and the officer helps him find his teddy bear. And he was, I guess, new on the job, but he was just very professional and very sweet. Helped this boy, instead of getting angry and upset, which you could, he helped this Down syndrome boy find his teddy bear. And though this little boy, his name's Ryan. Ryan's parents say that they now plan on teaching their son about which emergencies necessitate calling 911. They express their overwhelming appreciation for the officer's kindness and professionalism. And I think that is so sweet. And I love that we live in a country where this is the case. And I know that not everyone's perfect, and not all police officers are perfect, and our system isn't perfect. But the truth is overwhelmingly, we have a really fantastic police force. And especially knowing my mom's story and how, she couldn't even go to the police in Mexico and say, look, I have bruises, I'm black and blue, to the authorities, and they couldn't do anything about it because their system is like really, really bad. I think overall we have a really fantastic system, and it just shows the heart and the humanity with these kind of stories. So that is it. That's a wrap for this week's podcast. If you love this, please click the 5 stars. Seriously, it's so easy. And if you're feeling extra motivated, leave some kind words that'll make my day. But for the most part, please just click 5 stars for the iTunes reviews if you're listening on Apple Podcasts. If you're watching this on YouTube, then go and leave me a review there and subscribe. Please subscribe and share with a friend. God bless you. God bless America.